It's time we spoke about your mother, Louis.
When I first came here, I wasn't that worried. In the past, my mother has taken a few liberties during her missions, including disappearing for several days on end.
That doesn't make me feel any better, Louis.
What was the official reason why my mother came to your island?
I knew about your mother's activities, and yours, in the Golden Order. I thought we had everything to gain by working together.
You mean the canon deal with Monsieur Bonaparte?
Among others, yes. How did you hear about that?
Monsieur Bonaparte came to speak to me about it yesterday, during lunch.
I see. So impetuous. He was supposed to let me speak to you about it first. Our friend Napoleon desperately needed financial backing to properly equip his army. I took it upon myself to back him because I have a firm conviction that he can go far.
We shall see. However, there's one thing that surprises me. Did my mother intend to finance a war? I'm not sure that I follow.
No, your mother's aim was not so much to partake in a war, but rather to make Monsieur Bonaparte accountable. France is in turmoil, and having the support of a military man can often come in handy, Louis. You'll see. Once this deal was closed, I had big plans for Sarah.
Such as what?
You see, I've invited several influential figures on my island to present them with a project at the conference. It will be presented later today. I thought that the Golden Order had a role to play, and I still think so. I was hoping Sarah would be able to join us.
I see.
Indeed, if by chance your mother decided not to return to us before the conference, would you do me the great honor of attending? If only to follow the deliberations while waiting for her to duly take her seat.
Why not? We shall see.
Ah, thank you so much. In this way, you'll be able to keep your mother informed of what is said. There's something else I'd like to briefly go over. Earlier, you asked me the official reason for your mother's presence here. Is there an off-the-record reason why your mother came here?
If only my mother trusted me, but she remained very mysterious. I'd have been delighted to answer your question.
Is this usual for her?
As head of the Order, secrets are her bread and butter, as you can imagine. That said, it's the first time she hasn't let me in on the reason for her trip. And it intrigues me, to tell you the truth.
Well, I am sure that Sarah will explain everything once she reappears. There's something I still don't get. In your opinion, why would your mother remain in hiding over several weeks?
Maybe she found something out.
What do you mean?
My mother has a gift for investigating. If she had picked up a lead, nothing would have stopped her.
The only thing I can tell you is that Sarah had indeed changed. At the beginning of her stay here, we enjoyed spending time together, solving the world's problems.
You seem to know my mother very well, my lord. What did you talk about together?
Oh, as soon as we had a little free time, we liked to share points of view about practically any subject. We would find ourselves embarked on interminable discussions that could go from Monsieur Blanchard's flight in a hot air balloon to the Treaty of Jassy, or the adoption of the metric system in France last year, or even Mr. Eli Whitney's invention in the United States.
My mother must have undoubtedly taken great pleasure in these exchanges. She always was one to appreciate broadening her knowledge. I'm surprised she didn't get you started on the Crusades. It was her favorite subject.
Are you joking? Sarah and I spent entire days together reliving them. It so happens that the Crusades are also my subject of predilection, especially the third. My ancestor distinguished himself brilliantly during the siege of Saint-Jean d'Acre.
Unfortunately, my lord, the Crusades are not my chosen field.
Well, it doesn't matter. You have plenty of time to learn. Your mother is a very well-read woman. You're quite lucky to have her as a model, Louis.
Yes, I know, but I'm still very worried.
I must admit, there are worse things to worry about now, Louis.
What do you mean?
Since she disappeared, your mother has been seen once. Her behavior on the evening of your arrival greatly surprised Gregory and myself. She resurfaced to attack Emma, Emily Hillsborough's twin sister. And she shot her with a pistol. Then, before Gregory could intervene, she ran off and disappeared again.
I beg your pardon? Hang on.
That means my vision on the wharf, it was actually happening inside the manor. Mother shot Emily's sister? The very person she came looking for? Why would she do that?
Excuse me, but between that and the childhood of Lady Adams, it's all a bit much for me to cope with. I need to piece it all together again to see things more clearly. You said that you spent a lot of time talking together at the beginning. What happened for that to change?
I'm afraid I haven't much to tell you. The more the days went by, the more she withdrew into herself. She never gave me an explanation. Until the day came when she purely and simply disappeared.
Where did she go when she wanted to be alone?
She would shut herself away in a room we use as a box room upstairs.
Would you allow me to go there?
Naturally, Louis, of course. I'll send you a servant to open it.
Thank you.
That's all I can tell you about the disappearance of your mother, Louis. I would like to have been more helpful.
I shall stay on her trail and follow up any leads.
Thank you. We will meet later on to welcome our last guest. In the meantime, I shall get someone to open the box room upstairs for you.
Thank you.
Подожди, upstairs, это же выше, нет? Он сказал, либо ниже, по крайней мере, это было написано так в транскрипции.
The room is just opposite Mortimer's study.
Вот. Блин, мне нравится что-то вот как ты рассказываешь что-то, потому что что-то
There are burnt papers in the chimney.
в этом видении мне не очень
There's a
понравилось.
legible fragment left. Hey, I recognize my mother's handwriting. She says, we must find a safer way to communicate. Someone is on to us. Trust in my faith in the man with the sword. So Mother had an accomplice here. Who could it be?
Я сразу сказал, сразу же. Когда
Who could she
слушали.
be suspicious of? I must find the next part. Faith, sword. I recognize her love of riddles there.
О, метод хорошо. Мне нужно... Значит, мне нужно нажать единичку. Правильно? И... Take.
Dante's Paradise. Raise your head and be reassured, for what comes up here from the mortal world must ripen in our rays.
What is this disc?
ним не делайте вопрос. Я просто беру их всех. Я не знаю зачем, но я просто беру их. Почему бы и нет, правильно? Просто брать.
St. Paul on the Road to Damascus by Caravaggio. Caravaggio attained a magnificent command of black and the play of colors too. Paul facing an ordeal, the curtains of his illusions being raised, and receives the light from his Savior.
Здоров, он тебе зачем мне это было сейчас вспоминать, да? Что я тут должен был вспомнить вот чисто? А это, подожди, это что это? Вторая комната? Интересно. Интересно, так. Здесь больше ничего нет, да?
Dante's Paradise.
Понятно, понятно.
Raise your head and be reassured, for what comes up here from the mortal world must ripen in our days.
Куда нам туда идти?
The door appears to be locked on the other side. I think I heard something fall to the ground. A metallic sound, like a key falling to the floor. I'm gonna need something to help me get the key that fell on the floor. The door was closed from the inside. Would Mother have provided something within reach to recover it? We'll see if it works.
Прям сработал, да? Окей.
It's open. St. Paul painted by Guido Rini.
Чё все это?
St. Paul is shown holding a sword. Strange. There's hardly any dust, as if the painting's been cleaned recently. There's a small inscription engraved on the frame. Let's take a closer look. This is how Paul spoke to his pilgrims from Rome. Just above that, someone's written down the figure 11 on the painting and underlined it twice. No, what does that mean? So we have the figure 11 twice underlined, and a story of a group of pilgrims who it looks like Paul is speaking to. Maybe it's a code. There must be a connection. A text on Paul must be somewhere, and it must be associated with the figure 11. But what's the story with these pilgrims? I mean, a connection with the figure, maybe?
Еще понимать, с чем связано, там, для начала.
Several portraits of apostles, all signed by Guido Rini. Looks like someone touched this commode recently. There are fingerprints on the sheets and in the dust. Painting of St. Mark from the collection of the apostles by Guido Rini.
Фанат какой-то прям. Просто фанат.
It's St. John, painted by Guido Rini.
Просто фанат какой-то.
The New Testament.
Так. Первый вечник. Интересно.
I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, but rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Wait, a note from Mother is carefully folded between the pages here. What does it say? Dear E, I'm glad you found this note. I was afraid the code of the two groups of pilgrims would mislead you. Pick up the package. You know where, and hide it where no one will find it. It's imperative. Awaiting your reply, hidden behind the youngest apostle. What? The youngest apostle? What does Mother mean by that?
Ну, примерно понятно, но что-то как-то не очень. Как узнать, какой год где?
There's something else behind this painting. It says, half of each group will join the first city of Corinth. What the hell does that mean?
Хрен знает, что это значит.
A drawing of the Apostle Matthew, painted by Guido Reni. He's represented as writing the word of the Lord, transmitted by the Holy Spirit, who appears here in the guise of an angel. This book is incredibly precious. I believe this is the book my mother referred to when calling upon the Lord. A volume of the Gutenberg Bible.
Так, а типа...
I guess I'll just come back later.
Ерунду-то что-то я не понял немножко. Что-то не понял сейчас вообще там что было про этот самый.
Several portraits of apostles, all signed by Guido Reni. Looks like someone touched this commode recently. There are fingerprints on the sheets and in the dust.
Что-то про Коринф, что-то кого-то непонятно.
A chest with the occult symbol representing air.
Интересно. Интересно, какой же это? Самым молодым, да? Ну, вряд ли отсюда, да? Это, наверное,
St.
нелогично.
Paul painted by Guido Reni. Of the four apostles shown in this piece, Paul is the only one who isn't an evangelist. He is the 13th apostle.
Что это может значить, интересно?
St. Paul on the Road to Damascus by Caravaggio. St. Paul is the only saint to be presented twice in these paintings, contrary to the other apostles. How come? This painting has been hanging here for a long time. A lot of dust is built up on it. Well, a finger has drawn a number in the thin layer of dust. I can read the number 4.
Четыре. Что четыре? Непонятно.
Caravaggio attained a magnificent command of black and the play of colors too. Paul facing an ordeal, the curtains of his illusions being raised, and receives the light from his Savior.
because we look not at the things that are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. This I say therefore, and testify in the Lord, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, in the vanity of their mind. Not in the lustful desire, even as the Gentiles who knew not God. There's nothing worth noticing here. Little characters are engraved on the chest of drawers under the urn. It's a sentence in Hebrew. It's too cumbersome for me to unhook here, but judging by the dust, it hasn't been moved for months, if not years. There are finger marks, deliberately drawn in the dust. 8 in all. No, nothing of value here. Painting of Saint Mark from the collection of the Apostles by Guido Reni. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten, but while they were made ready, he fell into a trance. Hey, there's a note here. A message from Mother in reply to E. We must leave urgently, but first I absolutely must go beyond the nightmare. Watch out for Volner. He figured out I was avoiding him. Allay suspicion. See you tomorrow evening. Stand ready. For now, let's cease all communication until we meet. Take care of yourself. I suppose this must be the last message. What happened afterward? If it's what I suspect, I fear the worst. What did Mother mean by, I absolutely must go beyond the nightmare? I must go beyond the nightmare. What does she mean by that? Clearly, she must be trying to do something useful, but what? The nightmare. Does that remind me of anything? Well, if it's a concept, I've got no idea what it is. I need to figure out what this means. Mortimer's getting his guests together. I ought to join them so I don't look suspicious.
То есть я... Обидно. Реально обидно сейчас. Вот сейчас обидно было совсем прям. Так. Ну это много, очень много, а вот это вот я бы все-таки посмотрел. Вот так хотя бы, просто вот так вот хотя бы. И вот так вот. И вообще здорово. Мне нравится вот так. Немножечко мы тут... Это тоже хорошо. Попальненько, может быть, что-то здесь знать надо. Оккультизм надо так вот прям.
It's time I went back and joined everyone in the small salon.
Блин, то есть все-таки здесь что-то было под вот этим вот, что-то там под кем-то там, это самое. Ай, ладно. Я почему-то вот... обидно.
You are expected in the small salon, sir.
Ты куда? Можно, конечно, по карте посмотреть. Стильно. Вот он спуск, да, то есть это он туда, куда нам нужно пойти. Нельзя, да? Ладно, где-то.
Emily, I must speak to you.
What's the matter, Louis? About last night, I'm guessing.
Sadly, no. Even if I'd like to have, alas. There are more pressing matters. I have news about your sister.
What have you found out?
Look, I've started piecing together the events leading up to my mother's disappearance and your sister's. Did my mother know about your secret?
Yes, even though I belong to the English chapter, her rank in the Order gives her access to a good deal of personal information.
It must have been Emma I saw in my vision.
I was given to understand that my mother and your sister bonded during their stay. They kept up a secret correspondence, which makes me think they were suspicious of someone.
And did you find out who it was?
No, but von Volner is mentioned. They were planning to make a quick getaway and were looking to hide something beforehand.
Have you got these messages?
Yes. Go ahead, take a look.
I see. I must say, thanks for your honesty, Louis.
Should I speak to her about my vision? If what I saw is true, she might want to take revenge.
Не надо, в баню.
I better keep that to myself for the time being.
Come, Louis. They're waiting for us.
You will pay dearly, Peru. I'm sure you were involved somewhere along the line.
That's right. Pretend you don't know. One piece of advice. Don't travel through France on your way back, or it'll cost you dearly.
Calm now, my friends. Let's calm down. Everyone seems to be a little unnecessarily heated. Don't forget where you are, please.
What's going on here exactly?
Sir Gregory called us together to introduce the last guest. But hardly had we arrived when he set upon Monsieur Peru.
And what has Mr. Peru done to once again provoke someone's anger?
We don't really know just yet.
I get the feeling it won't be long before it gets out.
How could you dare do such a thing? Dios mío, you are all out of your minds!
Really, Duke Manuel? What made you kick up such a fuss?
What? Have you not heard? Well, let me inform you that yesterday morning at 10:22 a.m. precisely, in the middle of the Place de la Révolution in Paris, by decree of the National Convention which Monsieur Peru works for, King Louis was guillotined.
What?
The King of France is dead, gentlemen. Our monarchies are in danger. I have said it before.
How dare they?
Oh dear.
Oh, as if it...
Friends, let us calm down.
Don't pretend to be surprised. He got a fair trial.
Ridiculous. Bastard. He was sentenced to death by 361 votes to 360. You beheaded a king for 1 vote. Is that your democracy?
What an obnoxious act. Until this, anything was possible. This political coup will have grave consequences.
France is lost.
Gentlemen, please. Let us take a step back a moment.
In the name of holiness. He was the highest representative of God in France, Emily.
Gentlemen, Duchess, we're all among people of reputable company here. We should be able to manage the conflicts of our nations in a respectful and orderly manner.
I fully agree with you, sir.
But
That's enough, sir.
with whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
Louis Maras de Richet.
Are you related to Sarah de Richet?
Sarah is his mother, Duke. Gentlemen, this news affects us all, but I must ask you to remain calm. It's not the first time history has taken us by surprise. Let's ensure that our respective countries are allowed to respond appropriately to this news.
Oh, rest assured. The response will not fall short, my friend.
Good for you. Well, Your Grace, here I was preparing to introduce you as is proper, and you've beaten me to it. I'm delighted that we are all together at last. Our meeting will therefore be able to kick off shortly. I have just a few more little preparations to take care of before you all find out the reason for your presence here. In the meantime, I shall leave you to get to know one another. When you hear the bell, please proceed to the conclave room on my left, behind that door. I'll see you later.
Could you spare a moment, please, sir?
I'm glad you asked. I want to talk to you too. Of course.
I heard about your mother's disappearance.
He looks concerned. I don't know why, but I doubt it's from sympathy alone. Well, let's see what he wants from me.
Any news of her? Have you found her, maybe?
To hear you speak, you seem to know my mother well.
Not really. We met for the first time on this very spot, some weeks back. We had a very pleasant discussion. She's an exceptionally learned lady, with a good head for business, and no need for me to tell you that.
I agree.
Did she tell you about our arrangement?
No, not at all.
Ah, I thought she might have spoken to you about it. Well, too bad. I shan't keep you, Monsieur de Richet.
All right then. Thank you.
I hope that your search will prove successful and bring Sarah back to us soon. I must go now. I'll see you later.
Черт подери, а.
There's a pattern with 5 circles on this chest.
Я думал, типа, что лучше не это самое. Лучше помолчать, типа, честно.
I have no space left. I'll retrieve it later. I have no space left. I'll retrieve it later.
Надо было, получается, а что мне надо было как-то натучиться, получается? Непонятно. Ладно.
Hey, these look like pages taken from an ancient encyclopedia.
Блин, может быть, можно все-таки без, типа, без этого как-то, то есть без без его участия все-таки есть что узнать, может быть, как-то косвенно реально попробовать, можно? Эх. А ты что грустишь, не знаю?
Monsieur Bonaparte, may I speak with you a moment?
May we?
Maybe.
Would you have any more information about the conference Lord Mortimer spoke of?
Nothing at all. Mortimer is very committed to secrecy when it comes to his conferences. But given the presence of Monsieur Peru and ourselves, I think it must concern France to some extent. Otherwise, I doubt he would have invited 3 Frenchmen to his table, huh?
Does expression "go beyond the nightmare" mean anything to you at all?
Well, metaphorically, yes. It sums up the career of a soldier quite well. I doubt that is what you want to hear, though.
Indeed. That's surely not what I'm looking for.
Well, monsieur, if you are looking for a phrase book, Lord Mortimer must surely have one, given the number of books he has. You ought to check in the library of the tower. You never know.
What do you think of Duke Godoy?
Well, I'd rather not express any opinion of him.
Why is that?
His reputation is enough for me.
Meaning?
This gentleman enjoys people talking about him for too many reasons. His undeserved titles, more than 10 in just 4 years, and each one more prestigious than the one before.
You don't think he deserves them?
If I had seen him on the battlefield, there might be some doubt. But that is not the case. The Queen would rather not risk losing him, so she consoles him with awards and titles.
So you don't have a very positive opinion?
His coveting French Catalonia does not encourage me to have one.
I understand your point of view. Well, I'll be leaving you now. Shall we meet up again later?
Wait, monsieur. Any news of your mother?
Unfortunately not, no.
I hope to speak with her about my deal before I leave. Let me know if you find her. À plus tard, monsieur.
Ага. Так. Намек-то примерно он сказал, конечно. Вор. Так.
What can I do for you, sir? I am at your service day and night, sir.
As I was unable to bring my personal effects with me, I was wondering if you could find me a few items.
Of course, sir. What would you require?
I still haven't quite recovered after that boat crossing. Would you happen to have any devil's thorn by any chance?
I am sorry, sir, but the devil's thorn may be just a plant, but it is also a powerful psychotropic drug that causes undesirable diuretic effects. I would advise against, sir, taking any.
My good fellow, would you have any amber available?
I would, but unfortunately I don't think I am authorized to give it out, sir. I believe it is a precious stone.
дорог просто. Ну, понятно, я мог бы, конечно, забрать.
What's that book you're hiding in your jacket?
The Sorrows of Young Werther by Goethe, sir, and I am not hiding it.
Hand it to me, please.
It is damaged, sir. I would never dare lend sir a book in such a pitiful state, sir. I took it to restore.
Что, ту же самую книгу мне дадите? Ну это бред, ладно. Это моя книга. Ну не моя книга. Ладно, пойдем, все, пока. Туда. Кто сидит? Ты что тут читаешь? Не понял.
Go beyond the nightmare. Does this line remind you of anything in particular?
You've caught me unaware here, Louis. Let me think about it a second. No, nothing comes to mind. Sorry, Louis, but I am unable to help you.
Mr. President, what do you think about your counterpart, Duke Manuel?
I'm very surprised he was able to accept Lord Mortimer's invitation, given the political situation in Spain.
I wonder what promise Lord Mortimer could have made to make him agree to come here, given the circumstances.
Who knows?
Mr. President, can you tell me a little more about the coming conference?
Of course, Louis. That's why we're here. Lord Mortimer or Sir Gregory regularly organize meetings like this to put forward major projects.
What do you mean by major projects?
I'd prefer to let Lord Mortimer explain that to you, Louis. Let's say he brings together influential people in order to consider possible actions to undertake to guarantee the future of nations.
Do you know the theme of the conference?
Not in the slightest. None of the guests know the theme before arriving. But you'll see, everything will turn out fine. Don't worry.
Well, thank you for your time.
Don't mention it, my young friend. Regarding your question on the nightmare, don't hesitate to question the others about it. Maybe one of them knows more than I do.
That's a good idea. Thank you once again. I'll see you in a little bit.
Ah, Louis. Just the man. Good Lord. How did the king come to be executed? I would think that the order would have intervened.
Your Eminence, I'm sorry for King Louis, but he did everything to put himself there.
Louis, how can you say such a thing? Even if France rejects the church, you don't go and behead a person of high status. They always serve our cause better alive than dead. Politically, it's absurd.
I invite you to speak about it with my mother as soon as she reappears.
Is there any news of her?
Well, I hope it won't be long before I find her, Your Eminence.
Now you wanted to speak to me.
I was wondering what to think of that Manuel Godoy.
He is reputed to be a very ambitious character, at every level. But his faith is unwavering. He is a staunch defender of the church. You can believe me.
If I say the nightmare to you, does it make you think of anything?
Your question is strange, my son. Difficult to say. Could you at least tell me a little more about the context?
Well, I mean, if it were a place or an object found on this island, what would you think of first?
The nightmare. No, I don't see anything. I'm sorry.
Well, that's too bad.
Ah, wait. I suppose it might be that horrible painting hanging in Lord Mortimer's study.
Tend not to be that interested. Right. Well, don't worry about it. I was just curious. Thank you for everything, Your Eminence. I shan't take up any more of your time.
You are welcome, my son. I will be seeing you, Louis.
Блин, а куда ты там? Подожди. Мне все-таки надо не в библиотеку, да? Ага, понял, все, это хорошо.
What do you want, Louis? You're leaving me?
Unfortunately, I have things to do. Thank you again, madam.
Бесполезно.
So, what did my mother mean by going beyond the nightmare?
Nightmare. 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 А где мужик? Ну, просто так нет, да, я так понял. Просто чисто паров, видимо, есть нет. Может вот это? Ну это бред, ладно. Это должна быть стенка.
It's a book on the history of the Crusades. I don't think it has any connection with my research.
It looks like a war painting. Oh, it's dated.
Что сейчас будет вообще? Ага. Так. Циферки, понятно. Так, понятно. Буквы, еще буквы.
No, what have we got here?
Well, it looks like a model of a lock. It's as if Mortimer is fond of complicating things sometimes. Well, I hope I never have to try and unlock it. Great. Honey. Let's take a closer look.
Я видел это уже.
Dark chocolate beans. Very bitter. They're greatly prized in high society.
Ну, они, конечно, ему, типа, ничего не сказать.
A mina bird.
Сколько паров, мне просто интересно. Что-то даст это?
What have I done? It looks like I've killed him. Oh, shit. I better not hang around.
Жестко. Почему-то я так и думал, на самом деле.
The Nightmare painted by Fuseli in
Ну, понятно,
1781.
какой-то, да.
Ah, this must be what my mother was talking about. Now just need to find out what she meant by go beyond. Hey, looks like it's mounted on rails on each side. It should lift up, I think. There must be a mechanism somewhere. Might come in handy.
Блин, вот что надо было дать-то, елки-палки, там. Пугаю, ну елы-палы, ну, брат, извини.
No, no mechanism here.
Здесь что-то с походами, там он где-то, мне кажется.
No. Let's look elsewhere. No, what have we got here? Well, it looks like a model of a lock. It's as if Mortimer is fond of complicating things sometimes. Well, I hope I never have to try and unlock it. I don't think this book can help me.
Ну там далеко уже, мне кажется. Это очень далеко, если честно. Прям очень далеко. Где-то там должно быть. Даже глупость какая-то.
Nope. No mechanism here.
Что так сложно? Где он там? Простите. Где он? Мы были.
No. Let's look elsewhere.
Еще можно было здесь действие скипать. Было бы, конечно, прикольно. Было бы очень прикольно. Если бы можно было скипать действие. Ну, пока нельзя.
No mechanism here. The Nightmare painted by Fuseli in 1781. Ah, this must be what my mother was talking about. Now just need to find out what she meant by go beyond. Hey, looks like it's mounted on rails on each side. It should lift up, I think. There must be a mechanism somewhere.
Я вроде нажимал туда. Ладно. Ага, вот так вот. Прям вот так.
Aha! I found it. Oh, what on earth is this? A ring lock now? Great. That's all I needed. Looks like there's a marker on number 1 on the second roller.
Ага. какая-нибудь, нет? Все-таки, может быть, все-таки книжка какая-то.
History of the First Crusades by Pierre
Ну там
Amédée de
какой-нибудь
Lassalle.
третий поход, он говорил
Hey,
третий.
The dates indicate AL, and it looks like 4,000 years have been added to our calendar. Oh, that counting system again.
О третьем, он говорил о третьем, надо узнавать.
The famous call from Pope Gregory VIII in his
Всё
Audita
понятно,
Tremendi Bull of
387 понятно.
5,187. Oh, the crusade where Richard the Lionhearted distinguished himself. It states the first sea blockade of Saint-Jean d'Acre was broken in the 12th month of 5,190 AL, whereas the
Интересно.
siege had been going on for 2 years. The crusades took place not long after the year 1000. Here all the dates say 5,000 and something. I'm guessing this dating system begins 4,000 years before the calendar that we use. Yet, I'm getting the feeling that there's something else, another small detail, but what is it? The famous call from Pope Gregory VIII in his Audita Tremendi Bull of 5,187. Oh, the crusade where Richard the Lionhearted distinguished himself. It states the first sea blockade of Saint-Jean d'Acre was broken in the 12th month of 5,190 AL, whereas the siege had been going on for 2 years.
Так. Все понятно. Только какой, я не очень понимаю на самом деле. 1190 или какой-то 87-й там еще, да, был, по-моему. 1187 или 90-й. Вот же вопрос. Ага. Мгм.
History of the First Crusades by Pierre Amédée de Lassalle.
Блин, он говорил третий нравится.
The
По-моему,
dates
третий,
indicate
что-то
AL, and it
ёлки-палки.
looks like 4,000 years have been added to our calendar. Oh, that counting system again.
The famous call from Pope Gregory VIII in his Audita Tremendi Bull of 5,187. Oh, the crusade where Richard the Lionhearted distinguished himself. It states the first sea blockade of Saint-Jean d'Acre was broken in the 12th month of 5,190 AL, whereas the siege had been going on for 2 years.
Интересно.
This seems to be the list of grants and sponsorships given by the Mortimer family.
Иронично, серьезно.
In 1550, the Mortimer family financed half of the construction of St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow by way of protocol gift from Ivan IV Vasilievich, one of the most beautiful religious buildings ever built. history of the Mortimer lineage. Looks like his ancestors have always sought to improve society and have had an open attitude towards the arts. Oh, the family tree. The direct descendant of William Alexander Mortimer I was born in 1195 on his father's return from the Crusade. Only son, more discreet than his father, it states that he was widely traveled. He produced only one descendant, named William Michael Mortimer. He died in 1275. There's no chapter dedicated to his mother. Lord William Alexander Mortimer, lover of the arts and the sciences, he took up politics at an early age. After rapidly becoming influential, he decides to retire from public life in order to organize conferences reserved for the elite with the aim of finding answers to world problems. Blah, blah, blah. He's also an only son, and the book doesn't mention any known descendant. The first William Alexander Mortimer. He was born in 1131 and distinguished himself during the Third Crusade, during which he rubbed shoulders with Richard the Lionheart. He showed outstanding bravery during the siege of Saint-Jean d'Acre. He died in 1211 in the country of Westford at the age of 80. What longevity! Nice. Nothing is mentioned about his wife. Lord William Alexander Mortimer, lover of the arts and the sciences, he took up politics at an early age. After rapidly becoming influential, he decides to retire from public life in order to organize conferences reserved for the elite with the aim of finding answers to world problems. Blah, 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 blah. He's also an only son, and the book doesn't mention any known descendant. All right. For one, the women of the lineage are not mentioned at all. What a cavalier attitude. Right. Let's see. Who else is there? All the descendants are called William Mortimer. There have been only male descendants. All of them only sons. Strange. It was uncommon to have only one child in those days, let alone all only sons. How was that possible? It really makes you wonder if all those sons really are official descendants. I'm smelling something shady here. Another at random. William Mortimer again. Only son, him too. Born in 1573 and died in 1665. The Mortimers lived to a ripe old age, that's for sure. Discreet again. The summary states that he was an excellent merchant, and that towards the end of his life, he entered politics? Only son, a descendant with a singular name. He also took a wife and had only one child, named William again.
Что-то они рофлят, по-моему, явно рофлят. Да ёлы-палы, это рофл какой-то, да? Ну тут я даже не знаю.
History of the First Crusades by Pierre Amédée de la Salle.
Hey, the dates indicate AL, and it looks like 4,000 years have been added to our calendar. Oh, that counting system again.
I got it wrong. It doesn't matter.
Серьезно, елки-палки, вы чё рофлите? Я думал, что... Наверное, я попаду куда-нибудь. Я, конечно, не уверен, но я когда-нибудь попаду, наверное.
Well, I got it wrong. It doesn't matter.
Не знаю, по что я должен попасть здесь.
Still not working. I get the impression I counted the wrong way. It must be 1 year more then, right?
Может быть, это намек?
Doesn't work, damn it. I really thought I was close. 1,190. Isn't the right date when you subtract 4,000? I must have missed a subtlety.
С марта. С января. И только 4000 выкинул, да? Я там
History of the
чё-то-
First Crusades by Pierre Amédée de la Salle.
Hey, the dates indicate AL, and it looks like 4,000 years have been added to our calendar. Oh, that counting system again.
The famous call from Pope Gregory VIII in his Audita Tremendi Bull of 5,187. Oh, the crusade where Richard the Lionhearted distinguished himself. It states the first sea blockade of Saint-Jean d'Acre was broken in the 12th month of 5,190 AL, whereas the siege had been going on for 2 years.
12 месяц. Так это, ну, больше, здесь, и меньше я ставил, вроде 89, больше, типа, что ли? Ну, просто, что-то я не очень понимаю. Ну, типа, вот, допустим, я просто не очень понимаю, на самом деле. Ладно,
Open sesame.
жестко. Ну, типа, типа там был месяц 12 того года. А, ну типа сдвинуть его надо, да, на 2 месяца, типа этого года. Непонятно, что это было. Я не понимаю, что вот это здесь какая-то дичь происходит, да? Это, конечно, сильно.
Let's see what you've been hiding, Lord.